Hello, welcome back to the series of AWS training sessions. I'm Sridhar. So in the last few sessions, we have seen like how to spin up our EC2 instances within AWS console, and we also looked into how to get into the EC2 instances. If it is Linux, we are getting into the instances by using PuTTY, and if it is Windows, we logged into by using the RTP, by using the remote desktop. And now we are going to look into the security groups. So if this is the EC2 dashboard, and here if we see like there are two running instances, and if I go to the security groups, there are three security groups. So if you remember, while creating the EC2 instance, so this is one of the screen we had in the wizard while creating the EC2 instance. And here under the security group, this is where we are going to restrict the traffic, because in a real time, we are not going to allow everyone from anywhere to access our instances. We have to build the tight firewalls. We have to give the firewalls rules here. Firewall rule in the sense like this is one of the rule which we specified currently, the instance which we created. We were allowing SSH by using it's a TCP protocol on port 22, and the source is 000 by 0. This means we are allowing to SSH into the system from anywhere in the world. Or if you want to just restrict the access only to our on-premise network, we can just specify this IP address of our on-prem. So we'll see how to build the firewalls by using the security groups. So now if I click here on the security groups on the EC2 dashboard, so here we'll get the list of security groups. So these are the three security groups. This is the default security group, because like whenever we create our own VPC, whenever we create our own network, so the default security group will by default be created. And these are the security groups which were created as part of our resource creation. And if you go back to the screen, so here in our previous sessions, like when we created the EC2 instances, we selected the option called as like by default it was selected the create new security group, and here the security groups were named as like launch wizard 1 and launch wizard 2, and that's what we see here. And these are the two security groups. So to add the rules, the firewall rules, we have to select the security group here, and if you go down, we can add the inbound and outbound rules. So now if I go to the inbound rule, sorry. So inbound rule, we are opening the port 22 to everyone. So instead, if we want to add more ports, like for example, I am going to configure the Tomcat application server. If I configure the Tomcat application server, anyone using the internet must be able to access our Tomcat web application. Or if it is a Windows, and if I have an IaaS server configured, and if I deploy a web application, so we should allow anyone to access the website by using HTTP. So in that case, like we have to open the required ports, but otherwise, like if we don't open the port, no one will be able to access our resources by using HTTP protocol. So to add more ports, we can just click edit, and here we can add a new rule. So like if this is the Linux instance, currently we only opened up 22 port, and along with this, if you want to open the HTTP port, just select the HTTP from here. HTTP, it's a port 80, and we can select whether we need to allow to everyone or only to the certain IP address range. So now I'm going to allow to everyone. So here I can select like everywhere, or if I specify my IP, only from my IP I'll be able to access through HTTP. But now because this is going to be a web application, I'm going to select everywhere. So everyone will be able to access this to this instance using the HTTP port 80, and click save. So this is how we can define the inbound rules. And the next is how, see if we see here the inbound rules, the 22 was already there, and now we added the 20 to everyone. And coming to outbound rules also, we can restrict the traffic. So now currently we are allowing all traffic from everywhere to all the destinations. So we're not restricting any outbound traffic, and here we are only restricting the inbound traffic. So anyone who wants to connect to this instance can either connect through 22 port, but that's by using the SSH, and the other port we opened is port 80 by using HTTP. So this is how we can create the rules, the firewall rules. But every time we have to make sure that we are not going to open to everyone unless required. So here if we select the EC2 instance, here under the details we can see like which security group this EC2 instance is associated to. So each instance can be associated to one or more security groups, and by using security groups we are going to restrict the traffic, restrict or allow the traffic. By default on the security groups all the traffic is being restricted. We have to open the ports which are required. And here if we click here on the view inbound rules, we can get the details of the inbound rules. So currently port 80 and port 22 are open to everywhere. So this is about the security groups. So in future sessions, like whenever we work on different other services, we'll still continue to look into the security groups, but this is the basic thing about how we can configure the security groups. So next thing, so if we go to the dashboard, so we looked into the security groups, and next thing is we are going to look into the volumes. So now I am selecting this test instance. So if you remember, we created the Linux instance with 8 GB volume. So if we go here to the details, we can see that there is one root device, and if we click here we can get the details of the root device. The root devices, the volume devices which we are connecting to this EC2 instance are called as EBS volume, that is elastic block storage. So for any EC2 instance, whether in Windows or Linux, we can configure like one or more EBS volume attached to this instance. Currently we have one EBS volume attached to the Linux instance and one to the Windows instance. So this is the volume which is being attached to the Linux instance. And even if we go to here under the volumes, if you go to the volumes, we can see the list of volumes we have. So we have two volumes. So if you go to the volume name, this is attached to the test instance, that is for 8 GB, that's for Linux, and this is for Windows instance. And we'll see how to create the snapshots out of these volumes. What is the use of snapshots? So anytime whenever we have the instances created in real time, we may have to take the backups, because if anything goes wrong onto the EC2 instance, if the volume gets corrupted or if software gets corrupted, we must be able to get it from the backup. So as part of that, the EC2 instances has the EBS volumes, and this EBS volumes we can take the snapshots of this EBS volumes. So under the volumes there is snapshots. If you go to the snapshots, there is no snapshot created, because this is the newly created account. We only have the two EC2 instances and we have two volumes, and none of these volumes have the snapshots. So if you want to create a snapshot from this volume, we need to select this volume and go to actions and create a snapshot. So now the snapshot is going to be created. We have to enter the details. The snapshot name is Linux snapshot. So I'm just entering some description and click create. So now the snapshot will be created. So this is the snapshot ID. I'm just clicking close, and if I go to the snapshot, we'll see that the snapshot is getting created. So now this snapshot is of 8 GB because we created this snapshot from the 8 GB volume. So it's going to take 1 or 2 minutes, so I'm going to pause the video until then. Okay, now the volume snapshot is being created. See here, if we see the snapshot status is completed. So now in future, like if you want to restore the snapshot, So like now currently we have two volumes attached to the instances. In case if we assume that if this got corrupted, we must be able to restore it from the snapshot. So anytime the snapshot can be restored to an EBS volume. So to restore a snapshot to an EBS volume, we can just select the snapshot and go to actions and create volume. So the volume will be created from the snapshot. This is the snapshot ID we selected, and we can create the snapshot with either the same volume size or with a bigger size. Like if we say like if we want the new volume to be created with 10 GB, we can just select the 10 GB and create. The snapshots are available within the availability zone. So if we create the snapshot within the US East 1A zone, so it can be attached to the EC2 instances within this zone only. So I'm just selecting this one and going to create. So now the new volume will be created with 10 GB from this snapshot. So if we go to the volumes, we can see the third volume is getting created. This is the third volume. And if we go here, the status, these two volumes are in use, but this is available. In the sense, this volume is a newly created volume, and this one is not attached to any of the EC2 instances. So this is how we can create and restore the snapshots. So next thing is we'll look into the AMIs. So going back to the dashboard, see here we see that the one snapshot is already been created. This is the one we created. And next thing is we have something called as an AMI. I'm just going to click this AMI. So AMI stands for Amazon Machine Image. So now currently we don't have any AMIs. So we have the two instances. So whenever we configure the instances, and after configuring the instances, we have to take the backup of that instance. That is, we have to take an AMI image out of that instance. So in order to take the image out of that instance, if you want to create an image from this instance, including this instance volumes, so select this EC2 instance and go to the actions, and under image we can just go with the create image. So now what we are saying is we are trying to create the AMI of this EC2 instance. So this AMI is going to have the base operating system, that is the Linux operating system, and it will also include all the applications and the software which we already configured into this EC2 instance. So when we create an AMI, we can create the EC2 instance out of this AMIs in future. So now I'm just going to click the create image, and here I have to give the image name. So I'm just going to name it as Linux image, and click create image. So now create image request is being received, and it's going to take a couple of minutes to create the image. So if we go to the AMIs, it might even not show because it's going to take a couple of minutes. So I'm going to pause the video until it shows here. So now we got the image created. It took at least like 3 to 4 minutes, and now the status of the image is available. So now we got our custom AMI. So in case if the instance gets corrupted, or if you want to spin up the new instance of the same type with the same operating system, same configuration and everything same, if you want to create a new instance out of this AMI, we can select the AMI. So once the image is created, we can use this image to spin up more instances. And here we got an image. This is a Linux image which was just created, and if I want to spin up a new instance out of this image, I can just select this image and can go to actions, launch. So here the image choose AMI path, so it's taking that custom image which is being created by us and the rest of the process is going to be the same thing. So selecting the instance type, and here some other configuration details, and selecting 8 GB volume, and key tag name new Linux instance, configure security groups, and here instead of creating a new security group, I can select the one from the existing group. So this is one of the security group which we used for one of the other instance. So I'm going to select this security group, review and launch, and launch. So here I'm going to select the existing key pair and launch instance. So now if we go to the instances, view instances, so here we can see that the new instance is getting created. So we got the new instance created, new Linux instance. This instance is created from the AMI, the custom AMI, which is built from this instance. So this is how we can work with the custom AMIs. Okay, that's all for today. Today we looked into the security groups, volumes, snapshots, and AMIs. Okay, bye bye for now, and we'll meet in the next session.